In this lesson, we will learn how to route IPv6 traffic using static routes. Traffic can be routed in IPv6 using either static routes or a dynamic routing protocol. IPv6 supports various types of static routes, including directly attached, fully specified, floating, and default static routes. IPv6 is also supported by the following dynamic routing protocols: RIP-NG, OSPF version 3, EIGRP for IPv6, and multi-protocol BGP version 4. It should be noted that the IPv6 unicast routing global configuration command needs to be configured regardless of the IPv6 routing solution implemented. In this lesson, we will configure a directly attached IPv6 static route and an IPv6 default static route. The example consists of a simple two-router topology. Router R1 is the central site router, and router R2 is the branch site router. Connectivity between sites is provided by two static routes. R1 will be configured with a directly attached static route to reach the branch site LAN on R2. Router R2 will be configured with a default static route to reach the two central site LANs on R1. The routers have been pre-configured with IP addresses. Let's verify connectivity from the R1 router. We will ping the directly attached S000 interface of R2. Notice it's successful. Now let's try to ping the LAN of R2. It's unable to reach it. We will now configure the static route to reach the R2 LAN. Let's enter global configuration mode. We must enable IPv6 unicast routing. And now we have to configure the IPv6 directly attached static route. So we use the IPv6 route command. We specify that we need to reach the 13 network. And we're going to exit the S000 serial interface of R1. Now let's configure R2. Again, we enter global configuration mode. We enable IPv6 unicast routing. And then we configure the default static route. Just like we have in IPv4 a quad 0 to indicate all routes, in IPv6 we can use the ::/0 to indicate all routes. And it's going to exit the S00 interface. Let's return to router R1 and verify connectivity now. We'll attempt to ping the LAN of R2. It's now successful. On R2, we'll attempt to ping the 10 network. It's also successful. And for good measure, we'll try to ping the 11 network. If we verify the routing table of IPv6, and specifically look for static routes, we'll notice that we indeed do have a static route configured. And we can do the same on a router R1. And it also has the static route entered. This concludes this lesson.